during the war. It did have an effect. And actually, I didn't go to prison, although that, again, had a lot of luck associated with it, despite the fact that I hadn't broken a law. Let me say, it was about a year into the proceedings that my lawyer, Boudin, having searched records for a whole year, a whole lot of research, for precedents for this, so he could see what the earlier arguments were, both sides and so forth, found that he couldn't find any. And I may have mentioned this earlier, but I was the first person ever prosecuted for a leak under any law. And the reason was that they didn't have an Official Secrets Act. So what they were trying to do was to use the Espionage Act, which was meant for espionage, as if it were an Official Secrets Act. First person that ever did that, and actually that they tried against. And there's been only one such trial since, 10 years later, Samuel Goring Morrison. So it took them a year, and they thought, well, maybe there's some unrecorded decisions, and they searched all over the different districts. And finally, my lawyer said to me, as far as we can tell, you haven't violated any law. Because theft didn't apply then either. I was copying information, and as a layman, I didn't realize this, and few people do, but I was not depriving anyone of that information. I was sharing it, in effect. They weren't being deprived of their property. If it was their property, and it wasn't. Our government can't copyright information. I don't know how many people knew that, but I had an expensive education on it. So the theft didn't apply either. So he said, you haven't broken any laws. So I said, well, great. You know, then this is in the middle of the process. I said, great, I'm home free now. Well, no, Dan, it isn't quite as simple as that. When the U.S. government goes in to a courtroom and says, United States versus Daniel Ellsberg, 12 felony counts in front of a jury, you can't be sure you're going to walk out of there free. I said, well, what are my odds? He said, 50-50. I said, 50-50, and I haven't broken any law? He said, well, let's face it, Dan, copying 7,000 pages of top secret documents and giving them to the New York Times has a bad ring to it. But they've only tried it in one person since. But I am perplexed why no one has really done that again, in the sense there are leaks all the time, which are very good. Some are timely, some are not. Some of you may know of the leak of the Eikenberry cables from Kabul, our ambassador in Kabul, 2 cables that were leaked a few weeks ago, which was like the Pentagon Papers. How many people have heard of those? Okay, how many have not? It's interesting, because it was a one-day story, basically, in the New York Times, and the secret cables were on the net. And you can look up the New York Times blog, on the internet part of it, on the story, which was about 2 weeks ago. Just say Eikenberry, E-I-K-E-N-B-E-R-R-Y. He's our ambassador in Afghanistan. And he was he's a retired lieutenant general who was in charge in Afghanistan 2 previous years. Couldn't be more authoritative. And after he had testified that he fully agreed with General McChrystal, who's now the military commander, who had the same job he had earlier, was requesting 30,000 to 80,000 more troops. The president granted 30,000. It would be 40,000 and more after that, I would say. So that was McChrystal's plan. And Eikenberry testified, I am fully in accord with this. I have every confidence that it will be successful. I agree with the president's program, et cetera, in front of Congress. 2 weeks later, someone leaked the exact copies of those cables. And if you look at them on the internet, which they didn't put in the hard copy in the paper, they are facsimile. I hadn't seen cables like that. I'm not on the distribution list anymore. And anyway, this was no distribution, which means relatively quite closely held cables, even though they were only secret. In refuting in detail everything McChrystal was saying. Saying these extra troops will not only do no good, they will set us back. Counteractive, the government to which Eikenberry is now accredited, representing us to Karzai, he's our man in Kabul, said this government is hopelessly corrupt, hopelessly inefficient, can never achieve legitimacy, is no kind of partner for us under any circumstances.